All right, guys, so just before the break, here's Pax Brown with some news for us.
Thank you very much, Chrissy. Loneliness and isolation, they're the sort of things that nobody wants to live through, especially if they're a regular thing. Now, you've probably heard about this before. The elderly are becoming lonelier and lonelier, and the Scotsman recently addressed the issue on its website, talking about how the loneliness and isolation of the elderly is actually an abstract issue, very difficult to identify. New research from JAMA Psychiatry even suggests that there is a link between Alzheimer's disease and loneliness and isolation of the elderly. Scotland has in fact pledged to develop a national strategy to really tackle this issue. Since loneliness and isolation can be as bad as smoking up to 15 cigarettes per day, it's perhaps time we start thinking about the problem in England too. There is, however, a very helpful phone service for lonely or isolated older people. Silverline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all across the UK. It even offers a pen pal scheme and connects to volunteers with the elderly based on their shared interests. Isn't that just great? And back to Scotland now. What have they already done that we can learn from them? Well, an initial conference completely dedicated to tackling loneliness and isolation and the issues that come with it has already taken place in Edinburgh. Part of the event involved presenting official strategy proposals to the government. But it's not just the aging population. In fact, loneliness and isolation is a trend amongst mothers as well, especially in the early years of motherhood. Connecting to others in these situations is as difficult as it is important for the mental health and well-being of mothers. And the even younger generations aren't exempt from loneliness and isolation either. New technologies and especially social media platforms are the leading cause for loneliness and depression amongst young people. A 2014 study has even proven that 18 to 24-year-olds are a shocking 4 times more likely to feel lonely than those aged 70 and above. Luckily, a new app has recently been unveiled. It's called Huggles and it's been launched by 2 London-based women who found it really difficult to make friends in the capital. One of the founders said, "I think when anyone comes from outside London and they come here for the first time to live, it's really lonely." So there you go, worth giving it a try if you're in a similar situation too. And as per usual, I like to end on a happy note. Croydon's Director of Public Health, Rachel Flowers, has recently issued a public statement which is really heartwarming. She says, "We should try and smile a little more often to the people we don't know. A smile can be contagious, and for people who are socially isolated and you can't always tell who they are, it can make such a difference." So there you go, guys. Smile more to strangers. It won't cost you anything, and it can truly make the world of a difference. That's all from me today, guys. Back to you, Chrissy.